Hello, I'm Lucas Hawkins. This is my first nutrition assignment called Nutrition and Digestion. Carbohydrates. Our recommended macronutrient intake for carbohydrates should be around 50 to 60% of our daily food intake. However, for elite athletes like Mo Farah, it can be up to as much as about 70%, which is because of the large distances they run. They need energy to still be supplied even when they're getting towards the end of a race. The function of carbohydrates. The function of carbohydrates is to supply the body and muscles with energy so they can work efficiently. The energy is converted into glucose, which is where we get the energy from. When glucose is stored, it's called glycogen. Food sources. Simple carbohydrates are things like sugar, sports drinks, jam, and syrup. Complex carbohydrates are potatoes, pasta, bread, and root vegetables. The different types of carbohydrates. As I've just spoke about, the two types of carbohydrates are simple and complex. Simple carbohydrates are known as monosaccharides or disaccharides. They are simple because they break down easier, meaning quicker release of energy. Complex carbohydrates have an extra bond, making them harder to break down, meaning energy is released slowly for a long duration of time. Fats. The recommended intake. Our recommended macronutrient intake of fats is between 30 and 35% of our daily intake. There are 8 roles of fats, and the functions of them are to protect our internal organs, thermoregulation, which is controlling the temperature of our body, structural material for cells, storage of fat-soluble vitamins, providing energy, growth and repair, and supplying essential fatty acids, and also, providing flavour. The different types of fats. The 3 types of fats are saturated, monosaturated, and polyunsaturated. Saturated fats are things like dairy products and animal fat. Of our 30 to 35% of fat, saturated fats make up 11% of our daily intake. Monosaturated fats are things like olive oil, rapeseed oil, and these make up about 13% of our daily intake. Polyunsaturated fats are things like sunflower oil. This makes up 6.5% of our daily intake. Saturated fats are things with only one bond, making it easier to break down, releasing energy quicker. Polyunsaturated fats have more than one bond, making it harder to break down. Due to this, energy is released quicker. Monosaturated fats only have one bond, meaning they have a quicker breakdown than the other fats because of this one bond. As mentioned above, the food sources of fats are things like animal fats and full dairy products, which are saturated fats. Olive oil and peanuts are monosaturated fats, while sunflower oil is a polyunsaturated fat. Protein. Our recommended macronutrient intake of protein is 15%. The function of protein is for cell repair and cell growth. Food sources of protein are things like meat, poultry, fish, and eggs, or things like cereal, bread, rice, and pasta. The different types of proteins are complete and incomplete. Complete proteins are proteins that contain all 9 of the essential amino acids. Incomplete proteins are proteins that lack the essential amino acids. They are usually found in plant foods. Complete proteins are things like meat, poultry, fish, and eggs, whilst incomplete proteins are things like cereal, bread, rice, pasta, nuts, seeds, vegetables, and grains. Vitamins. The function of vitamins is to help our body grow, develop, and to help you stay healthy. Food sources of vitamins are things like minerals, which are found in things like vegetables, meat, fruit, egg yolk, nuts, and seeds. The different types of vitamins are fat-soluble, which are vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are stored in the adipose tissue. The other type is water-soluble. These are vitamin B and C. This can be excreted through urine. If you don't get the right amount of vitamins, it can cause deficiencies. Here is a table showing vitamin information like food source, solubility, recommended dietary allowance, upper intake level, and what happens if you have an overdose, and also the deficiencies. An example of this is vitamin A, which we can see is if you do not get enough of it, it can make you not see as much, your vision at night being worsened, and you'll also have dry skin if you don't get as much of vitamin A. Vitamin B, as you can see, is water soluble, and the function of it is energy production, and if you don't get enough of this, you're likely to get a lot of muscle cramps, and you won't be as hungry, you'll have a bit of a loss of appetite, for example. Vitamin C is water soluble again, and the function of it is to help the immune system. It's found in things like fruit, but especially like oranges. And if you don't get enough of it, it can lead to like things like scurvy and bleeding gums. Vitamin D, fat soluble, strong bone. The function of this is help you get strong bones and teeth, and assist with muscle contraction and calcium absorption. The source food for this is like egg yolk and liver. If you don't get enough of vitamin D, you can get weak bones. Vitamin E, it is again another fat soluble vitamin. Its function is to protect cell walls. The source of this, food source of this, is like nuts and seeds. And if you don't get enough of vitamin E, you could suffer from nerve abnormalities, meaning that your central nervous system isn't working as efficiently, and you may not have as much control over your movements. Finally, vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin that assists in blood clotting, and it's found in things like cabbage. And if you don't get enough of this, you have a defect in your blood clotting, which means you won't be able to. It's not like your legs will scab up as well, or as healthy when you graze your knees, for example. Minerals. The function of minerals is to help your body grow, develop, and to help you stay healthy. Same as vitamins. Food sources. The food sources for minerals is cheese, milk, bananas, peanuts, and eggs. Different types. There are two different types of minerals. These are macro minerals and trace minerals. Macro minerals are ones that you need large amounts of, hence why they're called macro. You need about 250 milligrams of these a day. Trace minerals are called this because you need a lot less of them. You need about 20 milligrams a day. Here's a table showing your intake a day and deficiency sources, functions, and types. Example is the mineral zinc. It's a trace mineral. The function of it is to assist in carbon dioxide transport. It's found in cheeses. Its deficiency, if you don't get enough of this, is reduced respiration. Calcium. Again, no, this is different actually. This is a macro mineral, and it helps in muscle contraction and bone formation. A source of this is milk, and if you don't get enough of this, you'll have a loss of muscle contraction and weak bones. Potassium is another macro mineral, and it helps with nerve impulses, and found in things like bananas. And if you don't get enough of this, you'll have reduced coordination. Sodium, again, is a macro mineral. A function of this is to help water levels and your balance of water. It's found in things like table salt. If you don't get enough of this, you are likely to become more dehydrated. Magnesium is another one. This is a trace mineral. It helps your reproductive functions. It's found in things like peanuts and kidneys. The deficiency of not getting enough of this is your reproductive organs not being as efficient and could possibly fail. Iron is the last one. It is again a trace mineral, and it helps the formation of hemoglobin. The source of this is in liver and eggs, and if you don't get enough of this, it can lead to anemia. Fibre. Main function of fibre is to keep the digestive system healthy, running smoothly. Food sources is things like fibre, Food sources of fibre, are things like pasta, fruit, rice, and oats. Different types of fibres are insoluble and soluble. Insoluble fibre does not dissolve. The two different types of fibre are insoluble and soluble. Insoluble fibre does not dissolve. It prevents bowel disorders, and food sources of insoluble fibre are things like pasta and rice. Soluble fibre dissolves in water, prevents the uptake of nutrients, and controls the blood glucose levels. Food sources of soluble fibre are things like fruit, vegetable, and oats. Water. The main function of water is to regulate the body's temperature and also to maintain other bodily functions. You need about 6 to 8 glasses of water a day, as you lose a lot of water by sweating, breathing, and digestion. The body is made up to around about 50 to 60% of just water. Sources of water are things like found through fluid, which makes about 1,200 millilitres of your daily intake of water, food, which makes up about 1,000 millilitres of your intake, and metabolism, which only makes up 350 millilitres of our source of water. There are no different types of water.